Hi, it's the 23rd of September today. Um, this is the day that the Prime Minister Cameron is going to Vienna, I believe, or his representative from the Foreign Office, meeting with Germany and France maybe, and the USA, or anyway, there's going to be a meeting with regard to the Syrian war. And I'm just hoping again that they might come alongside President Putin and Assad, Russia and Syria, in order to change the way this war is going, and that we might be able to bring the end of the refugee crisis, bring an end to it. And I was even thinking today that perhaps it might be the case that if USA doesn't feel able to make such a turnaround, then perhaps they ought to abstain from the war, to stop dropping the bombs, or for temporarily at least, because I understand they're not doing a great deal anyway, and let Russia and the UK and the others that are involved, the Middle East, etc., to come alongside Russia and Syria, and in order that the IS can be set back. And then once Syria is stabilised, then it's done on the agreement that there will be elections once the Syria is stabilised and the IS is subdued, and then perhaps at that point we could then America, and if they have abstained and if others have abstained from it, then they can come together to rebuild Syria, for a fund to rebuild Syria. But I don't know how practical that is, but perhaps that might be a possibility to work along those lines. But all I can say is that I can foresee great difficulties if we don't make a prompt decision about the war now. With Russia coming into it, I think will go on for years if we do not come alongside them and join up with them, because otherwise it would, as I say, it would just go on for years. And in the meantime, even if it goes through to for the spring, we're going to have difficulties with the refugees, because Europe can't sustain these numbers. It's just impossible, and the Middle East and America doesn't have the same problem that the Europe has, where the refugees are just going to turn up in Europe, and we're going to have to do something with them. And you can't just let people starve on the street or sleep on the street, and we just haven't got the homes for them, nor do we have the income for them. We're already on austerity measures, as I've mentioned before, and certainly Greece can't cope with it due to the problems they've been having with the euro. So I really do ask the world leaders at the moment to think about again to join with Russia, because they may actually have the right idea at the moment. They may be making the right choice, because, as I said before, if we take out President Assad, as we did with Saddam Hussein, not to kill him maybe, but to remove him from his power, there's going to be problems with all the different factions there. And people from Syria, the UK ambassador and others that have positions in the UK government in the past, people who have knowledge, are also saying that if you remove President Assad, that's not going to guarantee peace. And having made the mistake we did with Saddam Hussein, I think we really must change our minds and forget about what's been passed with Russia and what President Assad has done, because again he was trying to stabilise the country. Obviously he's dropped bombs, but America's dropped bombs on Iraq and killed many Iraqis, and there's always a reason for it. There was a reason for that, which was what they call collateral damage, I believe. And obviously President Assad perhaps has his own reasons for the people that were rising up against him. Unless we're in that situation, we can't fully judge perhaps what the true situation is. So obviously I may be totally on the wrong side of the fence, but from the outside, in my perception of the matter, having read a little into it, I do think the only option we have, in order to resolve it eventually for everybody, to stabilise Syria, because President Assad has agreed to elections, is for everyone to get behind him at the moment, because of the refugee situation as well, both for the sake of the refugees that are suffering greatly, and for the sake of Europe, which will disintegrate if we cannot stop this flood of peoples and are expected to finance them when we're already having difficulty financing the people we have here, and there aren't enough jobs nor homes nor healthcare for what we have. And all these people that are coming have several children, 4 or 5 children each, and we can't sustain it. And we're having I understand there's about 800 unsupervised children that arrive in Kent every year, I think it was. Certainly 800 over some space of time. Now, if children arrive like that, we can't send them back. It's even difficult sending people back anyway, and it costs us something like 2 million, I understand, a year for people that are supposed to be removed but haven't been removed. Because, again, once somebody is here, they're going to get lost in the system, and they're out there somewhere. And, once somebody's arrived here, they're not going to want to go back to their own country if they've had difficulty there, because there's more chance of having a life here in Europe. So there's an ongoing problem. And it's also the case that we have to reassess the situation with regard to the asylum system, and also the asylum system, due to the fact that people are abusing it and it's allowing too many people in, and we can't afford it. The Middle East and America haven't got this same problem that we have. They don't. Well, the Middle East anyways, Saudi Arabia, and I think Iran don't take asylum seekers. They don't assist in that way. So it's very easy for them to cause the problem or assist the problem due to their religious motives, and then leave Europe to pick up the cost. And obviously their book indicates that that it's okay to immigrate and want their people to immigrate and propagate within these other countries, because it propagates the religion. And obviously we've got the problem with jihadists that might be coming into Europe to cause disruption. So the other thing is and obviously we've got the bishops that are also been recently called for more refugees to be taken, and during all of this time nobody offers any resolution as to where the money is going to come to pay for them. The media don't say to these people when they interview them, but what about the people that's already here that need homes, or the welfare state system that is also already at bankruptcy, and that we are in austerity measures and we're trying to cut the cost of the welfare system, and yet you're asking for us to take, I believe there was somebody saying 50,000, even the 20,000 that we're coming we can't afford, and it's 20,000 more homes that are not going to be given to those that are already here and maybe sleeping on the streets. So please ask these questions. I ask the media, and I ask the bishops too, that if you want these people to come here, I don't hear anything about the church putting any of their funds into assisting these people, these refugees, and the Roman Catholic and the Pope as well. And I'm not talking about a small amount of funds. I'm talking about a major part of the income that you have, which I understand is millions. Now, if you want the taxpayer in England to pay for more refugees, I'm asking the church to cover the cost of those first 50,000 or whatever thousand that you're asking us to support, because that's the people's money as well, as is the taxpayer. But the church is the church, and the people that are given to the church are given for the poor. So not for pensions for the priests and the bishops. Now, I don't think you will give that money because that is for your pensions, and you won't want that to be removed because that's your security. But you're asking for the taxpayer security to be removed, because if we take in more asylum seekers without resolving the war, because instead of calling for the resolution of the war you're calling for more refugees. You're dealing with the symptom only and not with the cause, the disease. And I don't hear anybody calling for more, to a great extent, calling for more resolution for the war, be it the politicians that call for more refugees, or for these bishops, or for the business leaders that are also calling for more refugees. I don't hear resolutions as to how we're going to raise money for that, other than taking from the taxpayer and for the social welfare system. So I just asked for somebody, if the media could, I'd be very grateful to put some of these points to them over the media, to these people that are calling for more refugees to be taken. Notwithstanding, I understand that the refugees are in a lot of difficulty, which is why I'm calling for a quick, expedient resolution within this next month, so that we come alongside Russia and President Assad, because that's the quickest way of dealing with it, and he has agreed for elections. So the rebels, or the factions that are fighting the Syrian Free Army, need to put aside their immediate demand for President Assad to go and to fight alongside Russia and the UK if they become involved, and other European countries, so that we can bring a resolution to the war and the refugees can go home, because a rebuilding of Syria can occur perhaps. The other issues that have happened this week, because I'm coming along the lines that as a social media MP, an SMMP, which I'm hoping others will become one also and provide their own website with their own ideas, and that may lead up to becoming an MP themselves if they want that, a real one, and they get the support. But this issue with the sugar tax, I'm very sorry that the government is not taking this up. I do think it's even if it was just for the sugary drinks, because I noticed even with my own family that the children, when they were 7, 8, 9, became very overweight, and our family were never normally overweight like that. We don't have that within our family, and I can only attribute it to the fact that they had, instead of drinking water at meals, which I did, or Ribena or orange juice, which had water in it, diluted, they were always drinking Coke or lemonade. And now, if you're drinking that throughout the day, apart from it not helping your kidneys, you can't have all this sugar. Now, if every drink has X amount of teaspoons of sugar in it, that's putting a lot of pressure on the kidneys and obviously the pancreas, with regard to and the diabetes. And we can't, it's crucial, particularly with children. I think it's crucial that the having my own experience of it, and having also trained as a nurse as well, it's crucial that the sugary drinks at least have some sort of tax or system, a tax on them, because it's when you're to eat, chocolate and sort of pasta and that sort of thing, which is also gives you a lot of weight. But obviously, if you're full, you can't eat too much more. But with drink, you can keep drinking and drinking and drinking. It won't do you. It won't. Your body won't say no unless you drink far too much lemonade, and obviously you're going to be nauseous. And even with chocolate, if you have too much chocolate, or you'll be nauseous. You can only eat one bar maybe. But the thing is, with the sugary drinks, it's too easy to drink it and be drinking sugar. So I do urge the government to very quickly, at least with the sugary drinks, to put this tax on, or at least ban the sugary drinks even, because I think that is the crucial issue with regard to children being overweight and having this difficulty with the teeth and with their diabetes. And then the issue with their diet is another matter. That is another issue we have to deal with. Also, on Channel 4, they had yesterday, I think it was Channel 4, they were interviewing people that had been moved out of the London area to because of they couldn't have, there weren't houses near London, and they were going to maybe Thurrock and I think it was Thurrock and Essex, something on the outskirts of London anyway. And they had to walk half an hour to school with the children. Now, surely we must be grateful the fact that we have a roof over our head, we have a welfare system that gives us an adequate amount to at least feed ourselves and our children. And if we're a little bit, even if we have to go up north and we're away from our friends, we make new friends. Even when you're living life and you've got a good job, you sometimes have to move in order to improve yourself, or move because you've hit bad times and you have to downgrade in your situation. You can't just demand to live somewhere just because you've got rights. We can't work like this. It's too unreasonable. And we have to remember the social system was set up with people coming out of the war, grateful for being alive. And it was in order to provide people with the basics so that they could grow and develop. It wasn't there so that people that could just demand their rights and then have 2 or 3 children and 2 or 3 dogs and can smoke and drink and still claim benefits and claim poverty and go to food banks and claim for poverty. I don't have a cat or a dog. I live very frugally, and if I can't afford something, I cut something out. If I find that I can't balance my books, as the UK government is not able to balance the books at the moment, and they're trying to, if I spend more than I'm bringing in, be it by benefit or a salary, then you have to cut back on your expenses. And that means you don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't have dogs. Even if you have to give the dog away or have it put down, I'm sorry, it has to be that way. I was brought up on a farm. You have to send the cattle away because that's the way it is. You are eating, most of us are eating the food that comes from the farms. You have to be practical in life, and that means the ordinary man on the street as well. And there are many there that are abusing the system, and it's not just the politicians that may be abusing the system, it's also the people on the street that are abusing it. And even that lady on the channel, the Question Time, that was calling, saying that the new tax credit system being withdrawn, calling shame on you and this sort of thing to the government. Nobody was asking her why she was claiming the tax credit system. Did she have a dog? Did she have 2 or 3 children that she couldn't afford, or with several different fathers? Which is what happens now. There was having seen the benefit streets, you have people, one young lady there purposely didn't take contraception, so she had a child. She had no income except the benefit, had no home. Now, where is the common sense in that? And why should the tax people have to pay for these luxuries? For alcohol, smoking, having a pet is a luxury. And I know it would be nice if we could all have those things, but we can't all have those things. For most of my life I've been in debt. I've worked and I've just been able to make ends meet in as well as having the debt. So I wasn't able to probably make ends meet because ultimately I was in debt. And now, because of an inheritance from my father, I was able to pay off that debt, and I vow never to get in debt again. And I'm very careful with budgeting, and this is what we all have to do. And with the tax credit system, I'm saying they want to cut it back. And I understand that this tax credit system was introduced by Labour as like a tempter to. It was just before an election, so it was to encourage people to elect them. Not this last election, but one of the ones prior to that. So we don't know if this tax credit system is actually based on common sense as well, and whether it's given to people who are working, who could actually afford not to have this extra 1,000 they may lose because they've got satellite TVs and 2 or 3 telephones and this sort of thing, and wear trainers that cost £70 each. It's all down to we don't know the background, is what I'm saying. And the thing is, the welfare system is too much of a burden to the tax system, and the NHS is a breaking point, and we have to do something about it. And for politicians to say no austerity, or for not even trying to balance the books, seems to me very irresponsible, be it the SMMP or Labour. And there's a basic common sense to be had, I think. And I just want to end with a quote from Plato, which perhaps we ought to think about, because it says, "Until philosophers are kings, or maybe politicians, cities will never have rest from their evils." So let a little of the philosophy, perhaps, that I've brought in here come into the debate, the narrative, the media dialogue, and that we may begin to change our ways, all of us. And then we could also begin to change this message of God that people are also misusing through lack of knowledge, as I've described on acertainbattle.com, and A Certain Myth. And I just encourage you all to look at these websites. Thank you.